the John Mayer preset. Let's dive in and let's talk about what you get. So if you look at the overhead shot of the Helix, you'll see right now, if you're familiar with the Helix at least, basically you'll see that these are labeled as pedal types. This is labeled, this is in Stomp mode, so you can utilize the patch like a pedal board. So this is available, by the way, for Helix HX Stomp, which is gonna be like the trickiest one to use because the lack of buttons and the lack of space, but you can still get most of it. You can still get pretty close. You can still utilize it. You can't just have it all together, is what I mean. Axe 3, FM9, and then as well, Quad Cortex. All of those you can utilize, minus Stomp. You can utilize more like pedal board option if you want, or you can use scenes. HX Stomp, like, because you don't have as many buttons, it's just not as, like, it's not like full on rig is what I mean, but you still have all the sounds, so you can pick and choose and make stuff happen. This may be where some of you may want to live if you want to like use this more for executing, like playing a set of some kind. If you really want to utilize, I don't know if you're in a Mayer cover band or if you just really like how this patch sounds and it's kind of like does like scratches that like blues itch for you to a certain extent. There's that. And then you have the 8 scenes or snapshots, depending on the unit that you're on, labeled with song names, -1. One of them is just solo because I didn't have like another sound I wanted to go for. I actually wanted to try to dial in the I guess I just feel like solo tone, but that tone is so crazy to get. And like just in like one unit I was like, I feel pretty good about, but I couldn't get on the other ones. And I just don't think it's worth it. So I pulled that out. This is just like a solo sound if you're playing anything like that. This first sound is Paper Doll. I only called it that because it's like this beautiful clean tone. Like when I'm testing a clean sound with like verb and that's all I have on, like I just play that riff, it just does it for me. And then there's some other sounds, some other song titles. Those are, I took all the effects that I dialed in and I like really went for more like some of the specialty stuff. Now, Bigger Than My Body, you can't do that. You need like the adrenaline, Roger Mayer adrenaline pedal to do that kind of thing. Heartbreak Warfare, even though it could be doable, it's not merely a dual delay. That's also the adrenaline. It's got some special delay in there that kind of like diffuses in a certain way. The track in the studio recording of I Don't Trust Myself, John Mayer also uses the Roger Mayer adrenaline. Man, it's called the adrenaline pedal, okay? He used to carry like 2 on his board, like different, there's like a blue and a yellow one. But live, he uses the Qtron Plus, and in my mind, like the quintessential Qtron sound is actually the Where the Light Is sound. I like that one a bit more personally. I think it's a little more expressive, but anyways, you get Love on the Weekend, Shot on the Dark, both chorus sounds, and then Changing actually is too, but it's more like a solo sound you could use with chorus, which you could also use for Helpless if you turn the delay off. And then there's just a solo, which is the drive stacked. Your pedals are as follows. John uses Tube Screamer and Klon primarily. And sometimes it's Tube Screamer into Klon, sometimes it's Klon into Tube Screamer. Sometimes, as at least some boards I've seen as of late, like when he was doing his solo act, when it was just him, he like stacked he did Tube Screamer, Klon, Tube Screamer. He had that whole row. We don't have room for that. So if you would like to change it, in Fractal, you can get a little more flexible because you can add it to a channel, a block. And you could do that if you would like, or you could just easily swap the chain, whatever, if you want to do that. I have Tube Screamer in the Klon. I feel like it pushes a little bit better. And then if you're going by the order of the channel, the signal chain, there is what I'm using as a Katana, but it's like the exotic EP booster. That's only there to push the Qtron, not in all of them. I know in this and in Fractal, it needed that to really sound like it. Quad Cortex actually thought sounded pretty good without it, so I didn't add that. That is something he did. If you would like to do that, it does add a little something. We'll get to that in a second. After that, there's another EP booster, which I'm using again. Like that's more just like a clean boost Katana. You could use the one for the Qtron if you wanted to put before the drives. If you could, it would still do the same thing because it needs to push the Qtron at times. So if you just wanted to move in front of the drives, you could then utilize it to push the drives if that's something you liked as well. Right now it's after them just because that's where I put it. But that's the only time it's on, is when you hit on the Don't Trust Myself snap scene. And then the Kinky Boost, yeah, again, that's what they call it in Helix Roll at least. Yeah, that's just there just to fatten things up. It's the FET booster in Axe FX. That's there so you can just kind of beef up your clean sound. I put that in a couple snaps. That's really what it is. Then you got a chorus. Then you have 2 analog delays, both set to slapback. One is like 1 repeat. It's like, from what I understand, John uses that actually in conjunction with a spring verb, which is also in the patch, for slow dancing in a burning room. The additional slapback delay has like a little bit hotter mix, a little bit more repeats, and I actually stack both. They're both set to the same milliseconds, like 149 or 139, and I just put them both on because it kind of like has like this little extra pronounced hit that I like. You could turn one off, you could turn the second one like down on the repeats or down on mix if you want. I like it. I thought it sounded a little different, it sounded nice, and honestly, some of these sounds I really went more for like how John played them live, because like studio, I just felt like, you know, those are different, like the songs evolve as he plays them live, and so I was like, this is kind of what he's doing with them when he performs them, so that's kind of what I was going for. Quarter note delay next, which he is known to use for solos live, not necessarily in the studio, but like changing, for example, big 6/8 thing when he just hits that big old slide up from like a C note to a D note, that delay live, again, you can hear that. That was pretty cool, so I did that. Trem, ever so slight, it gives you that like gravity thing. It's there, it feels really nice to leave on. Then you have 3 verbs, plate, which is assigned to a button, and dynamic call, which is assigned to a button, because those are more, I would assume, used more often. The spring verb that's on there is assigned to a scene for slow dancing, but like, I think kind of the idea is that John always uses spring verb, but I really don't think he does. Doesn't sound like it. He tends to play in big arenas where using verb is not necessary. So it's more of an effect. The bass tone, this is utilizing, again, our traditional clean amp captures, IRs, tone match IRs, what have you. If you would like this amp, but more ready for Sunday stuff, if you're watching this and you know what I'm talking about, we're talking about the genre that, you know, this channel is called Worship Tutorials. We seek to help churches, help musicians in churches, just sound the best they can, be the best they can, and part of that is by making patches. So we have a traditional clean patch dialed in for Sunday sounds, like big reverbs, delays, you know, effects, different drives. It's a little bit more geared towards that, but it still sounds great. But this stuff isn't dialed in the same. So anyways, here is the bass tone. Real key here, super clean amp with high headroom. Here's a bridge pickup. I have the tone knob rolled back a little bit. That's really important, honestly. Like playing like John as best as you can, kind of learning how he kind of approaches playing will help you sound like John. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you're gonna sound like him anyways. Because I don't feel like I sound like him. Like I just really can't. I just want to stress that like his playing style is what makes him sound like him with his gear, even though he's got like really high end or rare gear. Tone knobs rolled back always on the bridge pickup. Volume knob, rolled back often, just to kind of like soften things a little bit. And then when he opens it up for like solos, because it will make things a little brighter then, right? He doesn't run trebles on his guitar. It's not a traditional vintage thing. Here's it wide open though. Here's the bridge pickup, just a big old G and an E chord. So super clean. And that's the point, because the pedals do the talking. Tube screamer on the neck pickup. Klon neck pickup. The Klon it's not a transparent drive, but like it's not as like mids focused and chewy like a tube screamer. And oftentimes when you read like descriptors of a Klon, people do liken it to being a transparent drive of sorts, but you got to kind of run it with the volume knob on the guitar turned down a little bit. You got to run the amps being so clean, you got to run the drive a little bit more. So it's not quite the same, but bridge pickup on the Klon. Really like that. I'll come back to the Qtron. You're gonna have to let me have that one. Just wait. Here's chorus. Here's like the more like always on kind of style slapback that you're gonna hear used, not as often as people think, but that's not exactly the riff you'd play for it, but it actually works very well with I Don't Trust Myself. Here's our slow dancing, my apologies. Here's the quarter note. Something about the Providence chrono delay, it's just so tasty. A little bit of trim. You heard the plate the whole time. Here's the haul. That's the dynamic haul. Really big for like Love on the Weekend primarily, and if you wanted to do like the solo to Wild Blue, the outro solo, that kind of thing. Also, it just sounds really good. So there you go. Let's go through some song sounds. Here's slow dancing. We're not in a music store, so I don't have to put $1 in a jar. Now I'm gonna stop right here before we move on to Vultures. I have been a Mayer fan since Room for Squares. I remember being a kid. I specifically remember sitting in a car like after soccer practice or a soccer game and hearing No Such Thing and like loving it, thinking like, what is this? This is awesome. I mean, I had to be, I think I was at least 10 at the time. Part of the beauty, and I'll get into this in this other video too, I'll talk a little bit more about this, it's a little more fun. I just really enjoy the fact that I don't care about learning Mayer songs much at all. There's like this separation I have, like I can just relax and disconnect and listen to his music. And I still enjoy figuring things out about how he does things, how he makes the sounds he does, whatever, I still do. But not to the extent that like I have all of his parts down cold when I've been listening to them for years. I just enjoy messing around with the feel of the songs, playing riffs, something like he does, and I don't particularly care to get him nailed down 100%. But this patch, have felt a little vulnerable putting it together, to be honest, because I just feel like a lot of people are going to be very critical, but this is just my interpretation, and I'm having fun, and I hope you do while you're playing it. Let's get back to some sounds. Here's Vulture's second pickup on a Strat is, from what I understand, is what's used. I think I said earlier, if you don't like how like many repeats that delay has, just bring it down or bring the mix down. I just really liked it, and I've heard him do that live, so I was like, I'm gonna do that. Next, Love on the Weekend. If I understand the story correctly, if I remember correctly, he told a story like at the 2019 World Tour about like getting a pedal in the mail and immediately coming up with this riff and writing the song. I'm pretty sure he was talking about the New Neighbor Wet, which is kind of what I'm going for here. There is chorus on here, but there is like this big verb to kind of get you the Love on the Weekend sound. In that same vein, and by that I mean chorus, Shot in the Dark. That one's just less verb. I put it on there because I love that song so much. Slightly different than Love on the Weekend, but there's that. Changing. I have a video on my IG if you want to dig for it, from when I saw John Mayer's the Top Rock Tour, the 2022 tour, and he played Changing, and it was so good. Like ingrained in my brain as one of the best guitar tones I've ever heard live, and I can't explain it because like it's like solo tones, so like at least 2 drives, I would assume, and like chorus and he did a delay, and maybe he did reverb. He sometimes did reverb, and like probably more for his ears because like you couldn't hear it in an arena, especially in a dense mix. But this will always live in my head. Just this simple thing. If you know the song, you know what this is. Just that part right there. Just like that, those two notes got me. But you know. Like I said, I can't play his stuff no for no. And like, I'm not even like that upset about it. Like I could be embarrassed, but I just have so much fun. Then you have the solo sound, which is just like, it's got plate verb and then it's got the tube screamer and the clone on it as well. And so that's there if you want it. I mean, honestly, I think some of these songs or sounds like you know, you're playing at home having fun. So snapshot scenes aren't as important, but I was like, I have room, so let's do it. The last one, which here's the funny thing. One of my top Mayer songs has got to be like, it's Stop This Train, and then like I think it's I Don't Trust Myself with Loving You. And I always loved it, but the live in LA, the Where the Light Is version has always stuck in my brain. What's funny is this is probably the one sound that I was like the most intimidated to like put my name on and be like, hey, I dialed this in. When what's funny is like probably most people don't care about it as much when it comes to Mayer as I do. To me, what's important to know is I think the middle pickup's the best option, not too bright like the bridge, not too like warm like the neck. And you can't play too hard. If you play too hard, it's gonna pop open the filter too much. It's gonna pop too much. It's not gonna sound right. There is, just so you know, like if you're trying to use it in like stomp mode, pedalboard mode, you'll probably be like, oh, this sounds different than the scene. Yes, because the scene has one of those EP boosters pushing it to kind of give that feeling of the boost that sometimes he would use. John would sometimes put a katana in the loop of the Qtron Plus, so I did that. I really liked how it sounded. When you do that, when you play that, if you want to use the Qtron and like put like the clon or the tube screamer in front, you can get like some rosy sounds. Rosy wildfire, sorry. I've, you know, long day, but here we go. Like I said, I'm curious if anybody's as excited that that's in there as me, or if I just really dialed that in just to like for myself. Because like I said, this is probably the biggest reason why this patch sat for so long. That and we had the TC, the traditional clean, come out, so I wanted to make sure that we could utilize that. And then before that came out, though, we were waiting on. There were 2 Line 6 updates that brought out Dumble-esque things. There's like a GS. A Grammatico style, or I'm sorry, a Grammatico Dumble style amp, but then they came out with their own thing for within the Catalyst line that they put in there, and I was like, well, that's even better. The Aristocrat is what I use, and I just felt like it did the more high headroom, full-bodied, strong, like clean, without being wimpy, but without being too driven. Just did it right. So I was like glad I waited, because I just felt like we needed all those things to line up. So, and that's the Line 6 side of things. And if we can't release for Helix, then we don't typically do things separately. So anyways, you get one patch. You get, because it's a Strat. Now, John, like, he uses a Strat 75, 80, 85% of the time. And he does change guitars and will use a humbucker guitar, but he does not change settings. That's not something that most musicians do, but if you're here because you're a worship tutorials follower, you'll know that we include humbucker and single coil patches and everything. But like, this just is not like that's not common. Leaving the settings on an amp and the pedals the way they are and sitting to the point where everything sounds pretty dang good through it. They may turn on something to like level signal or maybe to make slight adjustments, but they're not like drastically changing. They're not changing settings on the amp. Like it lets those guitars sound like they're supposed to sound. So if you have like a 335 style guitar, that's a common thing John uses. I have a special semi-hollow 22 from PRS. Not exactly like a Super Eagle, but it gets me in that territory the way I would want it to. And it is kind of 335-esque. It has some sounds like characteristics tonally that I really associate with the 335. It sounds good through this patch too. So there you have it. There's gonna be a longer video talking about just tone tips to sound like John Mayer. So if you have your own rig or if you're trying to build something on your own, or if you are by chance just wanting to learn how to play a little bit better, here's some thoughts I got, that kind of thing. Links are below to grab this. Again, available for Helix, HX Stomp, XFX3, FM9, and Quad Cortex. And if you just want the amp sounds, that is available for PodGo, it is available for FM3, and it is available for Kemper and Tonex, but just not like these Mayer patches. You with me? Cool. Make sure you subscribed if you haven't. We'd appreciate that. Make sure you're looking out for the 5 tips. Sound like John Mayer, that'll be out very soon. But we appreciate you joining us today. If you got questions, let us know. Have a good one. Thanks for joining.